Morning, traders. Chris Capri here, Seconds Guys Trading. Hope you're having a good morning and getting ready for the stock market open here. So hopefully you all have a good start to the trading week. We had kind of a slow start yesterday. Actually didn't have any new trades yesterday. We only had just managing some of our option positions and making some adjustments. Today things are a little bit better in terms of movement. We got some more movers going on today, or we got more movers. Good grammar for 6 a.m. here. So we got some decent movers to start right now. And so we're going to go over that through our pre-market watch list and everything like that. So far, the ones that are really coming up are peck, PCK, which has been kind of hot. Big mover over the last several weeks. You know, it have several jumps and then it goes quiet, and then it jumps and goes quiet. And so today it's had a good jump. And we also have inmd, which both had positive news catalysts. Peck has some sales updates, basically, so they got some new solar contracts. And inmd also had some positive news catalysts on Q3 sales and guidance, which are up. So all that's looking good. Both of them, actually, the charts almost look identical. So those are the big ones right now. Yesterday, one of the big movers was in terms of the mid caps was Net. It had a pretty good move right out of the gate. So Net is Cloudflare. They announced a new service called Cloudflare One. So it's kind of like network and web utilities, and it just went gangbusters. So we're getting a little bit of profit taking pre-market on that one there, and so that's offering some trade setups. So we're going to go trade setups right now. What we're looking at. And then we'll take open Q&A before the market opens. So we're briefly just looking at overnight market cap. Europe down. Very, very interesting. So Europe down. And I couldn't quite figure out exactly, all the things that's going on, but I think some of it's COVID. They're extending some of the lockdowns that are going on right there. Asia had a pretty decent session, pretty quiet, almost all green except for the ASX 200. But Europe is all down 0.5% to 1%. So that's it's a decent amount for Europe. US futures right now, or also S&P futures, are down 12 points. So we're having a little bit of dip. QQQs also dipping a little bit pre-market after just a gangbuster short squeeze. I had some calls on QQQs, long calls, and I closed them at 286 heading into the weekend, and then boom, they just squeezed higher. So wish I could have held that one, but that's how this works. So we are getting a little bit of pullback on QQQs, and we do have some support right here at 294.18, which is the weekly VWAP. If that breaks, then you're going to see a little bit more of an unwind in the Qs. And so probably around to 289.90 or 290. So that could show some weakness in the market. Hello to you, Jeremy. Good to see you. And hello, Sasha. Cool. So let's go over some of the bigger ones right now. So INMD, they had positive Q3 guidance and sales and everything like that. So yesterday, nothing. So this was just announced this morning. So it shot up, and then it's been consolidating. So it is below VWAP right now. But looking at the highs, which anytime you have kind of like a gap like this or a pre-market move like this, you have to mark the highs and see where they are in relationship to the longer term time frame. So looking at the weekly, this is pressing up against some pretty good resistance. We haven't even actually had a weekly close above this, 50 whatever 51.99 ever. So we've had weekly thrusts above it, but we've never had a weekly close above it. So getting above that would, closing above that would be a very bullish sign to go from 40 to 52 in one shot. You're going to run into some resistance here at 53.22, 54.94, and then of course there's going to be some sellers waiting here, along with longs taking profit at these wicks. So you could see a very interesting rejection. But looking at pre-market right now, we're at 46.60. So if I mark the base, this kind of base right over here, and then go back to the weekly, from here, we definitely got a little bit of room, but it's getting a little thin in the atmosphere here, so to say. So I think it's going to have to work to get, up to this level. I mean, here's the pre-market highs. And so you got a lot of rejections here, prior history. So it's definitely going to have to work, and it's going to be a little interesting. But I think so far, what's the volume trading at on INMD? It's not huge. It's low on volume. So it's not attracting a whole lot of institutional interest. So I think this thing could roll a little bit. And it may even fade the majority of this move. If none of the institutional players say, this isn't really worth it. And we're not seeing that. Volume's 239 pre-market. Average volume is 676. Granted, we're about a third of average daily volume, but I'm not seeing this shift a whole lot. So this might be a fade play. Wait until it gets up here and then look to fade it. That's kind of what I'm looking on that one there right now. If I had to think of any sort of good base, probably around 40, 50 might be a decent pullback level. Definitely rejected here a couple times and then shut up. So watch for that one there. Soccernetic, that's a cool name. What about price volume divergence? And what time frame are you seeing price volume divergence? I mean, volume was, this is weekly chart right here, and volume was steady, was slightly growing as it's been building. This is just this week, but it's only 2 days this week, so I'm not sure where you're seeing the price volume divergence. If you let me know what time frame, that would help me. That would help me give me an idea of what you're looking at. Okay, so we'll wait for that. In the meantime, looking at peck. So peck has also kind of got a very similar formation. The news out of peck was, and peck does have a little bit more volume going to it. So 750K, which is above my threshold. I generally want 600K, but it's above the threshold and it's already at 50% of average daily volume. So they had 7.6 million in contracts for their portfolio of solar projects in Vermont. If you look at peck, if you look at the weekly, you can kind of see, and even on the 4-hour, it becomes kind of clear that peck tends to have these big thrusts and then lose it. Big thrusts and then lose it. Big thrusts and then lose it. Big thrusts and lose it. But now they're starting to cluster a little bit more, and it's building a little bit more. So this isn't necessarily the stock that is going to build, breakout, hold, create multiple breakouts, create new floors higher up, and continue to build and build and build. That's not what the price action is showing. So looking at peck pre-market, where's the highest here? 1124. Okay, so high is around 1124. Yeah, I like the idea of potentially rejecting selling peck at 1124 or selling it at 14. I do like the fact, though, that there's a big volume surge. This has attracted a lot of attention, and it's building. The lows are building, but then again, every single intra-week thrust gets rejected. So this stock is not the kind of stock that you want to hold for like necessarily a long-term type move, because you're going to see a lot of your gains fade intra-week. It's the kind of stock that you want to catch the thrust for that day, and then if you can, get short on it, because it's going to lose a lot of those gains on any single week. The only difference, though, is that it's really starting to build, and this is a pretty big volume surge. So I could see it pressing into here, and then, but I think it's going to probably sell off. So that's what I like on that one there. Soccer is saying the whole move up on week 1 for inmd. You're talking about this thrust? Yeah, it's not a huge divergence, though. You're not talking a massive drop in volume. It's relatively steady. And if you look, like, you have big volume on the bounce, you have big volume on the breakout, you have big volume on the thrusts up. So yeah, it had definitely better volume last year, and then going into obviously huge volume in the sell-off. Everything had a huge volume in the sell-off. The volume has been steady, but this is not a massive divergence here. It's just been steady with a few thrusts. The volume average has been steady. So I don't see that as necessarily being like a major signal or anything like that. The bottom line is the price action continues to build. It's not doing it on huge volume, but there is a building of price action, and you can't really ignore that. So yeah, let's see here. What else? Banana Republic. I hope you don't live in one. Let's see here. Can we scan pre-market gap up in TradingView as well? Sure. Once we go through this list, yes. So did we cover everything here in Benzinga? Yes, I feel like we did. Okay. So let's take a look at pre-market. Nothing's really standing out to me. Yeah, nothing really. I mean, 7% gap, 3%, 13% alt-immune, but there's not much volume. There's very little volume. Take a look at AMCI. Yeah, nothing standing out on the pre-market gap scanner on TradingView as well. So AMZI, yeah, it's faded most of it. This is only a 3% gap, which to me isn't really worth it, especially on a stock that's only $3. And then alt-immune, but you're getting no volume on it. There's just, 300K is very low pre-market volume. If I look at alt-immune here, yeah, its average daily volume is 2.5. So it's not even at like the halfway mark. If you can get to a third or half of your average daily volume by the time you're getting close to market open, then you're doing something. If you get, to the daily volume or above that, then that's a heavy stock in play. So yeah, nothing really is standing out besides those two. And again, volume just seems very low. Yesterday, volume was very low. There wasn't really a whole lot of movers that were just going gangbusters. Net was one of the big ones. So we can go over that real quick, which is Cloudflare, service that we actually use. So what I'm thinking for Cloudflare right now is looking at let's go to the 4 hours here. Yeah, okay, so looking at the 4 hour, huge, pre-market jump up, boom, but then it really stalled 58.5. And if you go to the weekly, yeah, this is all-time highs. So 58.50 is all-time highs. This is an enormous weekly candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 weeks in a row, assuming this candle, I'm going to assume this candle is going to close bullish. Then that's 6 weeks in a row of this stock going gangbusters with a huge explosion in volume. It's the widest range bar of all of them. So I'm going to expect some profit taking on this, but I think pullbacks are going to be bought. And so I think you can look at, say, if you want to, the weekly VWAP, which comes in at 54.15. I think that might be a potential area where you're going to see some dip buying. And if this holds, then, I'd probably go for at least $1 move and try and see if I can recapture all the way back up to 58.51. But if that fails, then you have to look for a deeper pullback. And so that is, 54 right there. So, I mean, you could see an unwind all the way to 45. That seems unlikely. And so if you look at the next, say, yeah, okay. So there is a decent, right in this little zone here. There's a decent area of resistance there that could act as a buffer of support, as a floor on the way down, because this was prior resistance here. So, and you did have another thrust here, and then it kind of rejected, and then huge surge in volume through that. So this might be the next support zone if the weekly VWAP fails. If weekly VWAP fails, then I think you could see an unwind to 50 being a big round number, and then to 45.5. So I still think I'll be watching this for the pullback and the touch off the weekly VWAP. There might be a good day trading play there. Okay, so all right. Anything to cover on DKNG? No, we added to our longs on DKNG, I think at 49.70. So we added on the dip buying there. It lowered our average price on that, which is good. Is there anything else I want to cover? SLV was a good runner the last few days, but then it held, and same with GDX, pulling back a little bit, Q's pulling back. So no, I feel pretty good about that. So we can do open Q&A right now. And that can be any instrument, any time frame. Just remember that if you have an instrument you want to look at, you got to list the currency pair, the time frame, one sentence description, bullish or bearish. So to note again, inmd, we watch that. Peck, we watch that. Net, we're going to keep an eye on that for potential dip trade. QQQ's decent base around 294. If that fails, then you're going to see probably a deeper unwind in the Qs. Okay. So let's take a look at if you have any currencies, if you have any commodities, if you have any indices you want to look at, if you want to look at FX, any instrument, any time frame, any environment. Doesn't matter. Personally, I'm kind of shocked that we're seeing this kind of low volatility, but I think what we're leading into is I think this is kind of the calm before the storm. I think that we're going to see a huge surge in volatility in the next few weeks, especially as we get closer and closer to the election. I am doing a webinar with XTB, I believe, on November 2nd, the day before. We don't have the links or anything yet, but stay tuned for November 2nd. I'll be doing a election webinar with them. And so that'll be probably a couple hours after US market open, the day before the US election. The US election is not going to be decided on November 3rd. There's going to be lots of ballots that are coming in. It's going to take a while to count all them up. This is going to be a contested election. This could be very much like it was, what was the big one? 2004, I think. I don't know if that was 2000 or 2004, the Bush one. But that took weeks, had to go to Supreme Court, all kinds of stuff. So we could see something like that happen here as well. And if that's going to happen, then you need to expect a huge volatility surge in the markets. So one of the things that we've done to protect against that is we've bought VIX protection. So we have a VIX bull spread. We have a bull call spread right now on that. And we set it out for, I think it's a December expiry, just to give it plenty of time. So we feel like volatility is going to continue to pick up. I think this, yesterday and today is a lull in volatility, which means that if low in volatility, IV dips, implied volatility dips, that makes options cheaper to buy. So if you were thinking of buying VIX protection, in my opinion, now is probably a good time to be buying that to get protection through the election, because I think the VIX is going to surge. So that's what I'm anticipating over the next few weeks. I think this is the last lull, and then I think maybe end of this week or next week, things are just going to start getting more and more volatile as the U.S. election gets closer and closer to that date. So Banana Republic wants to look at Kiwi dollar 4-hour medium-term outlook. Are you bullish or bearish? So you got to do a one-sentence description. Are you bullish or bearish on it? And ideally, you just give me, just a one-sentence description or whatever. 4-hour. That's a choppy little bugger. I mean, look where, wow, it's kind of a chop. Yeah, it's a lot of chop. So I would draw, you kind of got a zone going on here. So let me redraw that. Yeah, and we can delete that. So you got kind of a choppy zone on the downside here. If you look, so there's your downside zone. And then you look at your upside zone. And there you go. So you got a really choppy range on Kiwi dollar. Not a fan. Not a fan of it. At least not at the current price. Would I even be open to selling? I might be open to selling at these peaks here, but you basically got a wide range between 68 and sub 665. So you got about a 310, 320 pip range right now. I wouldn't be trading anything inside this. I would trade the low end of the range. I'd be bullish, on this low end of the range, and I'd be bearish on this. I would be bearish on this upper end of the range, but in between that, I wouldn't be trading a whole lot. I might consider a short here or something like that, depending if the price action looks good. You got these 3 peaks here. So yeah, it's decent, but very messy range. Not my favorite. Not my favorite. I mean, medium term, yeah, I'm looking over since the last few months, July, August, September, October, very choppy. I wouldn't want to trade a whole lot inside the middle of this range. So this whole range here, I wouldn't do a whole lot with that. I'd stay away. Yeah. Short term, it's looking decently bullish, but You have good thrust off, 65, pulls back, higher low, strong impulsive move up, but it just barely gets past this, and then now it's fading into this. So it's not inside this range. It's not like it's creating distinctive floors. It's breaking through the the ceiling, and then it's not pulling back to the prior floor. So it's not necessarily respecting levels inside this range. At the top of the range, it's respecting it. At the bottom of the range, it's respecting it. It is holding this 20 EMA, which is good, but yeah, it's not gangbusters momentum. It's not like a super strong trend. So if somebody was already long at the lows, I'd be fine with that. If somebody's short at the highs, I'd be fine with that. Anything in between, I don't really feel like adding or initiating new positions on this right now. Daniel K says, how far out do you buy options when you anticipate a move in the structure? That would be depend upon the time frame that I am noticing the structure. Am I noticing the structure on the weekly? Am I noticing on the 1 hour, 4 hour? That would obviously depend upon the scope. But I can tell you the majority of my options are, usually market open. Okay. The majority of my options are usually the next contract month out. So what is it? October 16th. This Friday is the expiry. Whatever that is now, November. I have right now a few contracts that are expiring, some iron butterflies that are expiring on the October. I only have a few contracts out for November right now, and the VIX is the only one I have out for December. But usually the majority, I would probably say 85, 90% of my options are the next month expiry. So usually a 3 to 5 week window, basically. I generally do not do options much further out than that. It's just not my thing. And part of the reason why I do that is because from my experience, and this is also something that was covered in the book review that I did, The Second Leg Down, is that he makes the argument that the best options you want to trade are the ones that are, maybe 30, 60 days out, or you want to go much further out. Anytime you're in between, you're kind of in this area where theta is like really long, and it's going to take a while for theta to decay. And if you're selling options, you don't want theta to take a long time to decay. So that doesn't make sense. And so the mid-range options are like the worst of both worlds, because you're kind of like in this mid-range in terms of theta and gamma. And I like to have, when I sell, the majority of my options are selling options. So I want theta working for me. Therefore, I want shorter dated options. If I'm going to be long options, then I want to push that out a little bit. But I generally don't like to have options that are more than 2 months out, whether I'm long or short, because otherwise theta is going to be an issue for me. So like it won't decay fast enough if I'm selling the options, and any sort of move in volatility isn't going to push the gamma heavy enough for it to really create a huge pricing change in the options. So if you can read that book, Daniel, it's a really good book, The Second Leg Down. It is very intense on the math at certain points, but it's also very easy in other points. But really, really good insights into options. If you feel like your option skill level is above a beginner level, if you're like an intermediate options trader, then I'd recommend it. Really, really good options book. It's called The Second Leg Down by Hari P. Krishna. Okay, so we got 2 more, and then I'm going to wrap this up. So Catalin Blaneriu, I believe you are a Romanian. You're a Romanian student of ours. Good to see you. USD CAD. It's a trade one of our students had. Do you have description, Catalin? You just have the instrument time frame. I had 1 cent description, bullish or bearish. Zhen Liu is asking, are you trading Apple right now? No, I don't have any positions in Apple. You're welcome, Daniel. I do not have any positions in Apple right now. But let me look at it. I do like Apple as a stock. It's a really good mover. It's plenty of volatility. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so we are getting some dip in. Okay. So we're getting a dip in that here. And it's already busted through the weekly VWAP. So if it doesn't hold this in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, then I think you're going to see much deeper unwinding in Apple. All right, so let's step out a weekly real quick on Apple. It's going to be very interesting if this thrust doesn't make it to this high or the prior highs, then you'll probably, the next leg down should make it down to here and more likely to make a new low. And the reason being is that, so you have the thrust up, you have the sell off, then you basically the second leg up here is dip buying. But if that second leg up doesn't make it up to close to the prior highs or the recent highs, then that means that sellers were saying, you know, the sellers that sold this off, they're saying, no, not happening. And they're stronger because now you've made a lower high. So if that's the case, then you would see a fading generally around to this prior swing low or even make new lows. So looking at that, and volume has been fading a little bit. You see a big curling down in volume. So looking at, there's a decent base. It's kind of messy. It's not the cleanest, but I think there's a decent base around 118. And you definitely have a decent base. You got this base right here. This is a corrective structure. Hey, get out of here. So that's a corrective structure, breakout. So it should come back to the base of this corrective structure. If it breaks that, then it's going to challenge the base of the corrective structure, which seems like a decent support level around 112. If that fades, then I think you're down, but then you're down back here. Before the sellers will take profit here, most likely. Unless it's a super impulsive move, sellers will take profit here for sure at these lows. Might be a good dip buying opportunity there. Is there any other place I'd like to get long on Apple? Yeah, maybe around 100. Maybe 100. Is there anything around 90? Yeah, that's so this dip, which created the new swing high, that's going to be defended. Some bulls will try and defend that for sure. So that might be a really good dip buying opportunity if it gets that far. If it gets that far. But right now it's surviving the first bounce off the weekly VWAP, which is good. That means some institutions are saying, hey, we like buying at the weekly VWAP. That's, you know, but it needs to hold this. If it doesn't hold it after the first 30 minutes of the market, I think you're going to see further unwinding in Apple. So, yeah. Okay. All right. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to be switching over to live trading with our stock trading course members. So I will see you in the Discord channel soon, and we'll be sharing our trades with you all there. To recap, keep an eye on inmd, which may have a good dip buying opportunity at 40.57. Peck's losing a lot of this. So as we were saying, watch for a fade on Peck. Net is really strong out of the gate, and it didn't even make it to the weekly view up. That's pretty impressive. So keep an eye on Net there. And well, as we talked about Apple and QQQ. Yeah, see, here's the weekly view up right here, and you're seeing it. It's definitely finding some interest right now. So if it can hold this, if it can close the first hour above it, that will be a positive sign. But I'm not a big fan of this pullback thus far. So, and Qs are losing some ground here. So if Qs lose 294, then I think you're going to see a lot of the tech space unwind, because that's where, yeah, weekly view up. If it loses weekly view up, then you're going to see a lot of tech start to rotate out to the downside. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the pre-market watch list. I will see you guys. I should be doing something live this Friday before our member webinar. So I'll try and get in an hour with you all on Friday. Other than that, good luck trading this week and stay positive, stay green, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.